have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
I wasn't going to wreck him, but I got to him and he turned him around. So didn't mean to really turn around, meant to rattle his cage over.
Welcome, friends. It is another hashtag Real Race Talk Monday. The Revved Up Sports Show coming to you from Texas. Showtime, Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez, all of you checking in. And we play that little sound bite right there. Of course, that was from the 1999, I believe it was, 1999 Bristol race there where Terry Labonte and Mr. Earnhardt get tied up. And we play that for a reason because here we've got some special sound throughout the night. Great topics coming up. We posted all those topics, so jump in. And unfortunately, I didn't write them down.
I have to go back and look.
Yeah, I didn't write them down, but anyway, so we'll get all that figured out. But man, saw about 4:47. Got an email from Indianapolis Motor Speedway that Bob Jenkins passed away, and that's for guys like Bobby and I that are race announcers. Man, those you grow up with those iconic sounds, and man, to lose legends like that. I mean, I can tell you, for me, that hurts just as bad as a driver.
Absolutely. I mean, he's one of the key components. You have the stories on the racetrack, and without the voices that have told the stories on the racetrack, you don't get the full experience. I mean, he was one of the pioneers. The fact that we have all these races live on TV now, you can thank Bob Jenkins and Ken Squire for that. Yeah,
definitely. And he was one of the ones where he was just so good. He's just so good. And luckily last year when we were coming out of the pandemic, our Saturday show had been shut down on the radio. So it was just too risky at the time to be doing it. So we got the opportunity to do it in remote locations. And I reached out to Bob Jenkins, and the man picks up the phone and calls me. And it's, again, one of those things where the phone rings and it's like, hi, this is Bob Jenkins. It's like, wow. But we had a great conversation with him. We're going to play throughout the night. We're going to play just little bits and pieces of it. And let's take a listen back as we'll honor tonight one of the best. Here is the great Mr. Bob Jenkins from the Revved Up ATX show on May 30th of last year.
Coming to the white flag, a leader change, and Labonte takes the lead. And meanwhile, Ricky Rudd's running. Oh, and Earnhardt spins him out. Oh, man. And Tony Stewart is involved in the crash, as is Mark Martin, Tony Marvin, and several others. Dale Earnhardt takes the checkered flag. And Jimmy Spencer ran second. This story.
One of the greatest calls we have ever heard at the last great Coliseum as NASCAR heads to Bristol Motor Speedway. Just good times that we have watched there. And that voice right there, well, there's a couple of them there, but iconic voices in motorsports. And for Bobby and I that have been race announcers, and we do this radio program right here in Austin, Texas, to get to go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline and talk to the gentleman that made so many of those just great calls. Let's welcome to Austin, Texas on the airwaves, it's Mr. Bob Jenkins. Bob, how are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you? How are things in Austin, Texas?
Austin, Texas today is very sunny. It's going to be hot, and we're heading to do some dirt track racing later on, Bob. So it's going to be pretty perfect. Pretty perfect. Bob,
Absolutely.
So, Bobby, how cool was that? So I mean, that was one of those moments. We'll keep playing that throughout the night, and we'll repost the whole thing. But to get to talk to a dude like that, man, and I love the SEC talk. Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of the SEC. Looking forward to it. Every ass whooping will be just that much more special.
Eventually, it'll be the SEC. But I have a feeling it's going to get worked out where they're going to join sooner rather than later.
We'll see you next year. There's no doubt about it. There's stuff in place, so it'll all happen there. But with Bob Jenkins, I mean, so many races. I mean, and he talks. This is a great interview. This is one of the best. This is one of the best that we've ever had.
No, I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite interviews. When you talk about one of the key components of the racing was when it was blowing up in the early 80s and into the 90s, it was Bob Jenkins with that iconic anchor roll.
Absolutely,
as the head play-by-play guy. Granted, it worked so well with Benny Parsons and Ned Jarrett along the way too, but that was the voice, right? Like that was the one thing. And the one thing they were talking about on the radio today, so soon after it happened, this afternoon when I was listening to Sirius XM on the way to the studio, is that
Wait, what? You're listening to a competitor? No, I'm just kidding.
Competitor? Well,
I watch Speed 51, so it's all good.
I guess it's okay.
Trying to learn.
But they were talking. Yeah, at least it's on. At least it's on, right?
Right.
Anyway. But he was a race fan first, and I think you and I can appreciate that, being the race fan first, because that's what we are. We're race fans first, versus trying to be a broadcaster that became a race fan. Became a race announcer. But we. I think we were fans first. You were a competitor first before you became in the announcing side and the broadcasting side. I kind of did it backwards, went from the fan side to the announcing side to the racing side, and then back up to the announcing side again. But, it was cool. He was a cool dude.
Yeah.
It's weird to use
be
the
missed.
context versus, is,
Sucks.
but apparently had the bad health, been in hospice for a couple of weeks. So it was a sad time for all of motorsports, although only fitting. If you're going to go the weekend that NASCAR and IndyCar show up at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that's the week you got to go.
There you go. And we'll like I said, we'll post the whole thing. We'll maybe play a couple of clips. There were so many great things that he said. His stance on NASCAR now was really good, and I don't know, that may have been one of the last ones he did. So man, people aren't going to want to come on the show anymore.
I know, right?
It's like you got to add a little humor there. Sorry about the light there in my eye. I think it's a studio window over here. But anyway, we overlook beautiful Round Rock, Texas here as we come to you from the Revved Up studio. This is going to be a really good show. At 6:45, we're going to talk to Brooke Storr, and she's in that Wheelman series. She drives those Outlaws, or whatever you want to call them, sportsmen. She's really good, and I think she's on the cusp of some really big things. Then coming up at 7:20, we'll talk to Kyle Cummins. He is the king of the hill. King of the hill. $10,000 in that pocket for him.
Man, I tell you, that's one of the biggest races to win in Texas, and we got another one. Had Big Money Neil Kemp on last year after he won the King of the Hill. Got to Kyle on this tonight, so we'll definitely have the right amount of racing action with the right people in the right places. And like I said, Brooke Storr, she's one of the ones that she just needs that one more break.
Yeah.
Just that one little break, and she'll be in special places here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Mr. Stevens once again checking in from Mobile. Yeah, we need to talk to Ralph. We flirted with that. It was actually to happen once, actually on the Saturday show. Didn't work out that day, but did talk to him at COTA. So we'll get him on this show. I think he would much more fit into this show, where folks would be able to understand a little bit more, whether it be about short track racing, the ASA stuff, Supercross, all of that, the NASCAR stuff. I think it'd be really good. We can definitely have that. We'll keep working on that. We've got lots of stuff in the hopper for guests that are coming up. We're actually going to dig back in. Like we said, we want to talk to more promoters, Texas promoters, whether it be, Alabama, Louisiana, wherever it is. We want to talk about the challenges of promoting. And we wanted to talk to another promoter this weekend, but we already had some folks in place, so we had to figure all of that out. But we'll continue to do that. We've got more legends that are going to be coming up as well, so we will continue. We will continue to add to the Monty here of just really, really good stuff. And I love the comments there about I love that people want to talk about IndyCar. The race is a little bit of a shit show. Tune in on
just a little.
Yeah, tune in on Saturday, and I'll give you more my insight. I've got a lot of friends that build roads. And they were like blowing me up yesterday. They're like, "You want to know what the problem is?" I'm like, "No," and they were telling me anyway. But that'll be on the Saturday show, because that's more of the suited for that. Or hell, I don't know. Maybe we'll do something later this week. I don't know. But we'll talk about that. But yeah, just a great backdrop. I mean, to see those Indy cars racing right there. Nashville's such a beautiful town. If I were going to move, I'd go to Mooresville or I'd go to Nashville, one of the two, or somewhere in Florida. And I just love the backdrops. That was such a beautiful sight, watching those cars race around there at Nashville.
It was really cool setup with the bridge. Despite the fact there was that huge bump on the back side of the bridge, I guess on the front side of the bridge, that led to some problems. But it was neat. Apparently, that's the only time they've ever had any type of race going over a bridge. No, Formula One's never done it. Obviously, NASCAR's never done it with a street course race. But
I'll explain on Saturday why it was so tough.
Yeah, because it was really, 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 really not wide at all.
Yeah. I posted on Twitter yesterday. You can follow Bobby at Bobby Chaffee. I'm at The Rodney R. The show's at Revved Up ATX. Can you imagine that over 360? Or the Corpus Christi Bridge? I know I put that on Facebook. Can you imagine that bad boy over CC? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, that'd be fun. Then you'd drive right off into one of those small roads back over there. You'd have to, lock it down coming off 200 miles per hour, lock it down to about 40 miles per hour, make a left turn, and try to navigate yourself back over to Whataburger Field. That'd be some pretty good stuff. But got to talk about, before we get into Miss Store, she's coming on here pretty quick. Ryan Hopkins wins again. He outruns Shannon Dulock and James Schoenrock. And Hop from Hot that we talk about that's been on this show, just continuing to do what he's been doing all season.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of those things. He keeps saying he didn't look at the points. He's still on top of the point stand, and somebody's in his ear telling him about the points, and that's going to be one of those things. I think when it comes down to the end of it, I still wish that our buddies over at Race on Texas would actually, publish the actual points between the two guys. But we'll get into that later. Yeah,
it's tightening up, and I think they are going to do that because it's going to become every 2 weeks. I think is what I was told. So that and that is the thing. Like because we can talk to Brooke. I mean, I saw that she's a part of the Kowicki program right there, and I saw that those came out, and they are. I mean, you actually see the numbers right there. She's in the top 5, and you see those numbers, and that a little bit of transparency right there to where it would give a little more idea there for folks. But then again, when you have like the King of the Hill, I mean, you look at the top 5 right there. We'll talk about that later. But obviously that's where all the other guys were race chasing, and they were all at that big event.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely with some of the heavy hitters that were going out there. It's going to be surprising. I'm interested in what happens this week with the local stuff, depending on how many guys go to I-37 for the Red River Tour, how many guys go out locally. Well, locally, if you can call your home track Edna, locally would be some of the Corpus boys not running up at the Red River Tour. So I'd be interested to see that.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations once again to Cotton Bowl Speedway as they finish off their summer tour right there, as Anthony Gordon winning the streets. Rusty Head in that $150 car. Have I talked about it on this show? He won that in a Super Bowl pool. He paid $150.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's the one he's going to let you drive.
That's the one that I'm supposed to drive. I don't know if I want to drive it after he goes out there and wins. I don't think that, when I'm over there sucking wind in the back, I don't think that would make me or him look very good. But he's like, open opportunity, man. Just come in and give it a shot. But I'm like, dude, same thing that I told Chase Schubert, because Chase Schubert offered me his car as well. It's like, you guys that all run in the front want me to drive your car and embarrass myself here. But it's the same thing, and my wife is like, please don't get into any of these guys' factory stocks. I saw what happened when you tried a dwarf car.
Mm-hmm. She's right. She's not wrong about that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe at some point. But Modified's Chris Morris, he outruns J.P. Dowell and Derek Scott Jr. Great run right there. Then it's G.W. Egbert in the Sport Mods over at Cotton Bowl Speedway, and Papa George wins in the stock class as well. So, I mean, that's the thing, man. We are cranked up. These point races are getting tight, and it's go time right now for these dirt tracks.
It is. It is now the time where we're trying to determine, you're in a tight battle with a lot of it, because you're in a tight battle with Mother Nature because it's been hot. You're in a tight battle for points because if you're trying to win the championship, you've sacrificed all type of stuff. You're at that point in the season. You and I have both been there to where you're like, okay, I've sacrificed so much. Am I at a point in the season, or where I want to be in the points to where I want to sacrifice even more, or am I at that point where it's not going to be worth it anymore, and you kind of want to settle down a little bit and kind of cut back? So I think that's the big battle, especially when it gets this late in the season.
Yeah, and that's where whether it be a track championship or whatever you have going on, that is this is where it's go time. This is where the emotions start kicking in, and this is where it gets hot and heavy. And we're going to be watching this across, whether it be here Texas, just across the region, where we'll see stuff that stuff is going to amp up because it's go time right now. I mean, whether it be, a series championship, this is when you really get fired up and ready to race.
Yeah, absolutely. Now's the time. When the summertime hits, that's when it's time to roll.
Absolutely. We're going to the hotline, as we said. We're super excited. We've got great guests on here from Texas again tonight. Have been trying to get this young lady on here for a while. Thought we were going to be able to do it last week. Then I got locked out of Facebook for some reason, for crying out loud. But luckily, that's been worked out. But over to the hotline. Super excited to be joined by Brooke Store. Brooke, how are you, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing really well. How's the week for you? Mondays coming off of race weekends and all of that. Never a dull moment.
No, never at all. We didn't race this past weekend.
Yeah.
We had this past weekend off. We were at Citrus County Speedway 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
So Brooke, what do you do on a weekend off? I mean, do you go to other races? Do you sit back at the shop and try to work on the car, fine tune it some more? What do you end up doing when a hardcore racer like you gets a week off? What do you do with that weekend off?
Well, actually, right now they just posted. We were supposed to be off until the end of August. August 28th, we were supposed to be back at Auburndale Speedway. And today, Showtime Speedway actually just posted that if they could get enough cars rounded up, they would put on either twin races for us or just a normal show, which is really crazy for Showtime. We haven't, these sportsman cars haven't been there in probably 2 years. So all of a sudden now everybody's shooting off text messages, phone calls, seeing what we're all going to do, especially most of the wheelman drivers.
Yeah.
Because especially a month off, that's not common for us. So we're all trying to figure out something to do.
That's kind of what I was thinking. That is quite the layoff of there. That is a great amount of time. So Brooke, how did it all get started for you? I mean, you were obviously one of the up and comers and doing just fantastic. How did all of this start for you?
My dad raced, my grandpa raced, uncle raced. So
sounds familiar.
yeah, exactly. Just, the typical story. So I got into it growing up at the racetrack and started racing go-karts when I was about 8, and we've been going from there. We went go-karts to pro trucks to super late models to pro late, sportsmen, late model stocks, and now we're full-time wheelman sportsman racing.
That's awesome.
So what was the change for you like when you started out so young running the go-karts and moving to the full body cars? Was it an easy transition for you, or was it not enough experience to know the difference? You just knew you were getting into something else?
It's actually pretty funny. I ran go-karts from 8 to about 12, and when I was 12, my dad was driving for somebody in Bradenton at DeSoto Speedway, which is now the Freedom Factory.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went with him, and he was supposed to be racing someone's car. And so we headed out there, and that owner had a pro truck there. And he's like, Brooke, just race this thing tonight. And I'm like, I've never tested any race car, nothing, like just straight out of go-karts.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, I'll hop in it. And we finished third that night. What it did take me a little bit to adapt to is, like, go-karts, you're sitting all the way back in it. So in that truck, I didn't ever think of the whole bed behind you. So
right.
Whenever I thought I was clear, that took a little bit of adjustment, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good way to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great story. So with the Wheelman series, we've talked to the Wheelman series on this program, and just talk about that. It is, I just love, it's dialed everything back. I mean, it really seems to make racing simple once again, the way it should be. I think everything has gotten so dadgum complicated. It makes it easy, and it's like you're talking about right now. Let's get out there and race.
Yeah, and you have a lot of sportsman drivers that are dedicated to the Wheelman series, and for the past 4 years, I've been one of them. I think I've only missed 2 or 3, and that's only because when I was driving for the diversity program, I had to races up in North Carolina. So a lot of people are very dedicated to the Wheelman series, and the reason for that is, I mean, there's really no gray areas. It's all in black and white, simple rules. I mean, the rule book is laid out. I think the rules are great. What they've transitioned to over the past couple of years makes it a lot more affordable to go do this rather than going and getting a super late model, which is really a dying class in Central Florida. So the Wheelman series really stepped up and made it to where you could take these old late model cars, throw a really cool outlaw aluminum body on them, get creative with it, and go from there. With 602 engines, it makes it a lot easier, and that's also why you have really competitive cars. But I mean, there's races sometimes this year that will show up and there'll be 30, 35 cars, and you have about 28 of them very capable of winning that night.
Nice.
So I think what the Wheelman series has done is made it a class that everybody loves to go watch. I mean, the bodies on these cars are really cool. different rules on the racetrack that, I mean, when the series travels, you don't run like certain track rules, like such as on the track rules. Like we don't have a start box, we have a start line. You'll see that a lot of times, like this past race. I mean, it went viral all over Facebook because of the start line. And it's little stuff like that that makes that series a lot of fun to run.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brooke, let's talk about the car a little bit. Obviously, it's got a lot of tendencies to the outlaw cars that are real big in the Southeast and into parts of Florida, like right around Pensacola. Other than the 602 motor difference, what's the main difference between the Wheelman cars and the regular outlaw cars?
The Wheelman cars are big spring cars. They have to be big spring cars. Tube or stock clip. Like if you're on a tube clip, it can't be the 2x3. It's more of a 2x4 clip. We run 3-inch spoilers on those cars, which is half of the spoiler what an outlaw car is around Pensacola, Mobile area. So that we can't run any straight cut transmissions. They got to be just your super T10 stock. Stuff like that, single piston brake calipers, can't run any crazy late model brakes.
Yeah, and I mean that's really and you mentioned that, and I want to elaborate just a little bit there with super late models and pro late models. It has gotten to where I know here in Texas we have very little asphalt. We have one track, and we don't get to race a lot. The costs of all of this, the supers, the pros, I mean, people are just getting priced out of the game, and it sucks because it's people that have done it for a long time, and there's an option there. There's no option when the pocketbook just can't allow it.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, I mean, in Central Florida, the super late models and pro late models are pretty much non-existent in Central Florida, except for New Smyrna Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only place they'll race pro late models. So you would have to travel to 7 hours to Five Flags, to Cordele, to wherever, Montgomery, to wherever to run those super late models. So I think it's really cool that Steve Dorr, John Chance put the Wheelman Series together back in 2016. And you'll see a lot of local super late model teams that sold their supers and got Wheelman cars. Mm-hmm. And it's actually getting to where Wheelman, they're talking about within next year, I'm not sure if it'll be that series or what's really going to be going on, but these cars are going to start making their way a little bit more north. So that'll be really cool, give us some more tracks to run. But yeah, just for us, and we had the conversation whenever I got back from North Carolina to go super late model racing or what we need to do. And really, to me, like I've raced supers, and it would be a lot of fun if I had $250,000 to spend every year on racing, but I don't.
For sure.
So I'm going to have fun while I'm doing it. And there's a lot of the super late model stuff now just doesn't seem fun for the amount of money you have to spend.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brooke, you mentioned a couple of times about the Drive for Diversity program. What was that like for you being involved in that program? It seems from the outside looking in that there's a lot of media training and different type of stuff that goes on. But what was it like for you being part of that program?
It was really cool. The media training was very helpful for me moving forward into having my own team. And it was really nice kind of getting to go to the different racetracks that probably I wouldn't have got the chance to go to, such as Hickory, South Boston, Myrtle Beach, Langley, stuff like that really, like I've had a Wheelman car for so long, I got to go do all that where Wheelman or sportsman cars don't go to those racetracks. So for me to get out and do that, I learned a ton just on-track stuff, getting to race against some of those big names like in the late model stock world, Josh Berry, Lee Pulliam, and going to places where they race and learn how they operate and how their whole team operates, and then coming back and kind of putting that on my team down here made a big difference for myself and I feel as the whole Brookstore Motorsports team.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing. You are an excellent interview. Just so far, just as we're just doing this, you are so good, man. Just spot on. And I'm very impressed. So with your knowledge of the race cars, I mean, when you're talking about big springs and all of that, I think one of the things that a lot of younger drivers fail to want to learn is how the car actually gets better. And it sounds like you have very good knowledge of how to work on and make these cars better.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things is knowing what changes do what to a car, because honestly, in my opinion, it helps with my dad being my crew chief, it helps him out a ton,
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot of pressure off of him, and it really saves you a lot of practice time, a lot of wear and tear on your equipment. If you're like, okay, we'll just change this and this, rather than your crew chief trying to guess at it just by watching the car on the racetrack. And especially with these sportsman cars, they're all so tight. We'll qualify within, the top 20 will qualify within a tenth of each other. So a crew chief standing outside the racetrack watching isn't really going to pick up those little things that you need to know how to feel and adjust on as a driver.
Yeah. Well said.
So growing up, I was kind of always taught by my dad, like, okay, we're going to change this. It should do this. And he'd give me examples and we worked through it. And so now I've kind of gotten to a place where I can be like, okay, that didn't work. We're gonna try this instead. He'll change that and we'll go right back out and be like, okay, that worked. Next step.
I love it. I love it.
So we're sitting here. Well, I say we. I'm sitting here looking at the website and seeing how much stuff you have going on with the different stuff. So what is it? Do you follow mainly just the Wheelman series, or do you I look at some of the stuff like when you went to Pensacola for the Derby? What changed mindset for you to decide to run to Pensacola since it's a little outside the normal with the Wheelman stuff?
Well, we've ran the Derby for probably the last 4 years in a row now. And that, I mean, it's the Derby. Who doesn't want to go to the Derby?
Yeah, well said.
I mean, so just being even just a supporting class there, the racetrack's a ton of fun. And so we've always went out of our way to make sure that we run the Derby each and every year. And we got to run one 50-lapper at Five Flags last year before the Derby. I think it was like around September time. But before that, I had only made laps at Five Flags at the Snowball Derby, which I'm not sure if you guys know, but an outlaw race at the Derby, you get one, I think, 30 or 45-minute practice.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's just ongoing. So there's 4 years in a row, 3-4 years in a row that I got maybe 5 to 10 laps of practice, and then we go straight into qualifying and race.
Yeah.
So since I've gotten some more laps around the place, it's definitely a lot of fun, and we'll continue to make sure we make it to the Derby every year.
Yeah, absolutely. Destination, you said it. It's the Derby. So
it's the Derby.
That's it. That's it. So with these cars, I'm substantially older than even my co-host here, and much more older than you. But to me, I mean, you talk about the bodies. These do resemble the 80s and 90s, outlaw late models that I grew up watching. I think that's so cool. But talk about the challenges of driving these things. I mean, they look so sleek, and you guys and ladies get around the racetrack so easily and fast in them. But maybe not the easiest thing to drive with some of the challenges.
Yes, it got to where probably last year a lot of people started figuring these things out, how to be able to drive off in them, a lot of grip in them. But so the Wheelman series decided, no, that we're not going to do all that. So they made us put a 3-inch spoiler on. Ever since then, it has made it a lot tougher to drive.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it definitely, the fans love it, and that's what we're here to do as well. So you can get pretty creative with them. We still have a quarter panel height rule. We still have a 4-inch ride height rule, just stuff like that. But I mean, if you want to get creative with it, you can drop the doors, honestly, as low as you want to make the quarter panels look real high. But we just got the simple look to them. Make sure quarter panels pass ride height, because they still got to pass even after the race, even if you get ran into. Wheelman's really strict on that. So we didn't really get too out of hand with it. You can see a lot of these cars, we can build a lot of side force into them with these bodies, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And you kind of underestimate it until you get on the racetrack and say you get quarter panel wadded up a little bit. Like, man, I wish that thing was about 5 inches longer so I can get some side bite right now, but it's all good.
I love it.
They're a lot of fun, for sure. I like them a lot better than your ABC template bodies, because also when you got 30 cars on a quarter-mile racetrack, we tend to run into each other a little bit.
It happens.
And aluminum's a lot easier to straighten out than fiberglass.
That's for damn sure. That is for damn sure.
Yeah.
So, Brooke, let's talk about this Kawiki driver development program you're a part of. How does that, do you apply to that program, or do they come knocking on your door? Because obviously you had a really stellar 2020 performance, and how does that deal work out for you guys?
Yeah, I actually applied for it at the beginning of 2020, but when COVID hit, they never went with their 2020 season just because drivers across the country couldn't run their normal full schedule.
Sure.
So luckily in Central Florida, we were only shut down for probably 2 months. So we only had like March, April, I would say, that we didn't get to race. But then we were wide open after that. So they took another 15 drivers, and I think there was, I believe, 22 or so that could be chosen on the bull ring for the 2021 Quickie Driver Development Program. And we were one of the 7 for 2021, but we were one of the finalists as well in 2020, even though it didn't continue because of the pandemic.
Absolutely. And that has to be, I mean, such a great honor for you. I mean, anything that you tie in the name Alan Kowicki, because that's a guy that did it like we all, we families that race. I mean, that's how he did it. He did it the hard way. So to be a part of that has to be really special, I'm sure, for you and your family.
Absolutely. And it's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot since being a part of it this year. I mean, Tom Roberts, the whole KDDP board, has been absolutely wonderful people. The other drivers have been great, being able to keep up with all of them. And also being able to kind of give back a little bit. I work a lot with Pets for Patriots, so I've been raising money to pair some pets up with veterans and do that, go to local animal shelters and donate some time and supplies that they may need. It's been a lot of fun. I do a lot with animals, with the whole charity deal.
Yeah.
So I really like doing all that stuff a lot, especially for KDDP. It's all for a really good cause.
I knew I liked you. And you say that right there, and that just drives a nail home.
He is an animal lover, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that there's anything wrong. Not there's anything wrong with that. I mean, when you pair up veterans and animals, that's pretty kick-ass, actually.
That's awesome.
So talk about the rest of this 2021 season. I'm looking at the calendar there on the website, and it looks pretty packed. Like you said, they're supposed to have the month off, and now you got a schedule loaded for the back half of 2021. So talk about what's left for the rest of your season.
Yeah, it seemed like beginning of the season, we've had a lot of rainouts, so a lot of makeup days are popping up, and a lot of big races were scheduled toward the end of the season. Now, I was joking about Showtime Speedway earlier. That could be a possibility this weekend. Not sure really which way that's going to go yet. But from the 28th until beginning of November, it's going to be just about wide open between big wheelman races, the season championship races with wheelman. We have a 200 lapper at Citrus County Speedway in October, 10,000 win for that. I mean, these races are just stacked on top of each other every week for the last few months. So definitely going to be hectic, but hopefully it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you get to race. That's a cool thing. I think that's the one thing that we learned in 2020, just being able to race. I think we all hold that a little more special now. One of our young lady race car drivers here in Texas actually posted on our Facebook feed and was talking about you raising awareness for arthritis. Talk a little bit about that. And I love what you do. I mean, it's you get back to people, and like your passion not only for racing, but your passion just for humanity just shines through here as we continue talking.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's Natalie. She does a lot with the
that's what I
stuff.
thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I saw that. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's Natalie. I was like, I hadn't seen that anywhere.
Yeah, that's Natalie.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll applaud her anyway. but seriously, how important is that? I mean, doing stuff, because it's one thing to get out and race and do everything that you do, but it is so much more about giving back. You pull the fans in, and I think it's you have to be genuine, and I think that's what a lot of drivers are lacking nowadays. Is they just don't, whether it be young or old, they just don't have that ability to want to give back to people.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a big deal. I mean, I've been very fortunate in racing. I mean, since I've started doing it, so being able to give back. And one of my other big things is trying to get kids involved in the sport.
Amen.
I mean, we all want the sport to be around for a really long time. So any driver that's at the racetrack, like, just take a few minutes, walk over to the grandstand, sign some autographs, make sure the kids have a great time, because you want them coming back. If you don't have fans in the grandstands, you can't do what you love, is how I look at it. Mm-hmm. So go over, like, treat the fans right, sign some autographs, have a good time. If you do that, I mean, you could have a fan for life and someone that is ready to get into a race car whenever they're old enough, or if they just need some help leading them the right way to get into racing, I mean, I'm always here for all of that. So you definitely don't want the sport to die off, and the young kids is what it's all about right now and what a lot of focus needs to be on.
I love it.
Brooke, I got one more, at least before we let you go. Rodney may have another, but I got one left. How would you describe the racing action in Florida? I think because Florida was only shut down there for a little bit, there for a while, every time we got on Sunshine State Facebook page or something, there was another racetrack that was running down there. How many asphalt tracks are down there, and how far apart are they? Are they just all kind of clumped together, or are they kind of all through Central Florida?
There are a lot through Central Florida. I mean, you have 417 Southern Speedway, that's in Punta Gorda. Showtime Speedway in Pinellas Park, New Smyrna Speedway out on New Smyrna Beach, Auburndale Speedway in Winter Haven, Citrus County Speedway in Inverness. I mean, they're all no more than 2 hours away from each other.
Oh, my goodness.
So you definitely got a lot of options, and they are usually really good about not scheduling the same classes on top of each other. So, I mean, that's how it looks like we're racing just about every week, because one week it'll be Punta Gorda, the next will be Auburndale, the next will be Citrus. So they just keep it all lined up for us to keep us busy.
Yeah. So lastly, Brooke, I mean, you're young, you're talented, you were so good behind the wheel, and you were very good with the phone or the microphone, whatever we want to call it. What's the big goal here for you? I mean, obviously, people are like, I want to go to NASCAR, I want to be in the Cup Series, whatever it is. What for Brooke's Store? What's going to be the perfect end of this journey when you get to it?
Yeah, I mean, I could say I want to go NASCAR racing, I want to go Camping World Truck racing, but really, I mean, I just want to have fun. Like, I love doing this with my family, with my dad. We have a great time. So I want to continue, keep having fun, winning races. To me, that's what it's all about. And I mean, I'll keep doing this until I can't, as long as I'm still just having fun.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. When it stops being fun, that's one
Absolutely.
thing my dad would always tell me. When it stops being fun, that's when we need to be done. And that's well said. So if we can get the Wheelman Series to the one Texas track, Brooke, would you please come?
Absolutely.
Ah,
Sign me up.
love it. Or to Mobile. So hopefully one of the two.
Mobile will be great.
Yeah. yeah. We'll work on that. I'm a part of the team there, and trust me, it's in the docket of things to discuss. So hopefully we can get that done. Brooke, this has been a joy. Thank you so much for taking the time. Glad we were finally able to sync this up and
guys.
make it happen. Yeah, let's keep in touch, and these airwaves are yours anytime here on Revved Up.
Awesome. Thank you.
You betcha. Take care.
You too.
All right. There she is, Brooke Store. My
What a
goodness.
what a good interview that was.
Dude, I am blown away by that. That's a young lady on a mission right there. And I like that she obviously we're impressed with just the technical knowledge there, but she's keeping it all in mind. I mean, I like what she said right there at the end, where, maybe if she doesn't get the cup, as long as she's having fun and is able to do this, let's just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this goes back to where I think that as many people as we've talked to, whether it be a sportsman, an outlaw, whatever it is, whatever you want to call them, and of course the Wheelman Series, I really think that's the future moving forward. And I go back to the Wheelman Series. We talked to the main man on here. They have figured out a way to lock this thing down to where it's like, great, if you have $1 million, that's fine. Go spend it somewhere else. If you're racing with us, you're racing with these rules, and that's great.
It's working. I mean, what are they getting? 30 cars a race now? I mean, the format that they have and the stuff that they're using with the rules and everything else. I was interested to know the difference between a Wheelman Series car and an Outlaw. It seems like the Outlaws, as we've talked about it before, where the Outlaws were going to eventually replace the Pro Late models.
Right.
Well, it looked like it was going to for a while. Then it kind of died off. Now it looks like, hell, maybe they both might end up kind of going by the wayside.
Yeah.
But it's neat to know the difference between the two classes because of the fact that there's, they look so much alike. I think that's part of the things that you run into is like we run into at Houston with the Outlaws looking too close like the super stocks. Well, the Wheelman Series, the sportsman cars look just, they're a different kind of sportsman car than runs at Mobile, than that runs at Pensacola. So
yeah,
it's about getting an awareness of the actual class. I think maybe taking the Wheelman Series rules and making a class in Houston about that might solve the problem. If you can't run the Outlaw, then you can't. I don't know what the situation is. Try to get more Outlaws in Houston, but I guess that's another discussion for another show. But
Yeah, and that's really I think where the Wheelman series has done a really good job to where they've locked it in to where they're keeping it all. I hate to say in house. I mean, if you're going to run with them, you're going to run this particular way, where they don't allow a lot of tolerances for anything. It sounds like is really what they're doing, and I think that's imperative to not let the class get out of control. I mean, because that's what we've seen time after time. I mean, the street stock is the one, the Texas street stock, if we want, or super stock, whatever. I was never excited about it, but we've seen it forever. I mean, it happened at Austin all the time, where the street stock would replace the super stock because the late model fell off, or whatever the case was. And
then they start running late model bodies on the street stocks, and boom,
man.
boom, boom, that starts all over again.
And it's like, I mean, even now with the Texas super stocks, I mean, some of them look just like the Outlaws, like you're talking about. And I mean, it's all about what's under there. But I mean, there has to be a way to control that, to keep the class alive, because when classes start falling off, and that's what I keep waiting for on the dirt side, and that's where I appreciate the dirt track stuff so much, because like the iStocks, for example, I mean, those things, it is cut and dry. It is cut and dry, and you can run it at Waco, or you can go run it in Iowa, or whatever the hell it is. Here's your rules. This is what you run. You can't do anything. People are going to push the rules no matter what. But they get your ass when you try to push the rules, and I think that's what we have to have with this class to keep it thriving.
I think so. I mean, I think that's the success. I mean, obviously, it's kind of like the old school stuff with the Dwarf Car Series that we're sitting there running, and y'all guys had with the Dwarf Car Race Series of Texas had, 20 anywhere from 18 to 25 cars every single race, which for a touring series was really good. And then the rules kind of got out of hand, and then they kind of fell off a little bit. Now they're back on the upswing, but there's not an affordable option to race in a dwarf car right now, in my opinion. They're running mod light prices and mod light speeds. So
yeah, and the deal there, I mean, and folks wanted to, and I understand it, because I mean, you had to home build your parts and pieces, which, my God, how hard would that be now? Because the man that built them all is no longer with us. Rest in peace. But it was. I mean, I understand the stance there, but I mean, in my opinion, that killed a class that was thriving. That would it be different if I mean, the main heart of that class was on pavement at Kyle, like you're talking about, 30 cars, 25 cars, whatever it was, and it went away, and you're never going to find that again. I mean, like my car, I mean, the purple car, I mean, that car's obsolete. I mean, you can't run with these people. I mean, the engine is, I guess, well, no, it's not what they have, but suspension-wise and all this other, it's not going to run with those guys.
I mean, it could with with about $10,000 worth
with a
of
hell of an
updates.
overhaul, yeah, with a hell of an overhaul. I mean, but it's just not possible, and that's really what has to happen to save these classes. So I don't know. King of the Hill coming up here in just a minute, but did you see Aaron Reitzel? Did you see that deal?
Yeah, with the messing up of the messing up the
yeah,
the bootlegging of the frame, maybe. That might be the right thing.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about Cole Wetzel there for a minute.
No, I didn't see him. You did. I couldn't hang. How was that show?
It's good.
No, I didn't want to hang. I didn't want to have to deal with the parking lot. True disclosure, my gas light was on. I didn't want to sit out there in the parking lot trying to get out.
He put on I wish I knew more of his songs. He put on a pretty good show. It was the Coyote at the end of the night that ruined my day.
Coyote ran. Oh yeah, that's right. Tell the folks about that. That was not good for you.
That was not good. It was not good. We decided to leave a couple of songs early from the end because we're like you. We didn't want to get stuck in a lot of traffic issues, and so we left a couple of songs early. We were leaving there at Bushy Creek there in Hutto. We driving down the road and got ready to get on the toll road and started speeding up, getting on top of the hill, literally right outside of Hutto, and all of a sudden there comes this little brown blur that come out of the right side, and next thing you know, you just feel a thump, and that's what it was. Tore up the front bumper a little bit, and then tore up the license plate. Luckily, the license plate's still there because I didn't want to have to get a new set of license plates. But I tore up the front bumper a little bit. Tie straps, my friend. Tie straps. Moved the front end, the front bumper cover over about 2 to 3 inches, and so luckily it could have been a lot worse. Had it been like a wild pig or something, it could have been a whole lot worse. But rest in peace, the little coyote soul there. But when you ran out in traffic doing 75 miles an hour, not a lot you can do.
What's like people that run out on 35. It was like the deceased was trying to cross I-35 at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a good idea.
Not a good idea at all.
That never ends well. I mean, animals are different. I mean, they're programmed different. But yeah, it's like people do things, and I'm like, you knew this was going to end bad.
Yeah, you can't play Frogger with real cars.
Right, or the chicken game. You can't play chicken. I mean, you try to run across a thoroughfare. I mean, I wouldn't run across 620, out by my house. I mean, I'm not going to run across that anytime. I mean, because you never know. I mean, you might have some slug coming down the road, no lights on, maybe, drunk driver. I feel bad saying that. I may have been that guy a time or two, but in the past. But it's like, come on.
I was not drinking either. I didn't have a single drink on Saturday night.
Oh, my God, why not?
The beer line was too long.
Wasn't it? We have to
That's why the beer line was too long. I didn't feel like waiting in there, missing the music, waiting in line for a beer.
But they were smart because that line was very long. But and I waited and I waited and I waited and I finally went up there and I bought myself 3. So I mean, it was a
the limit was 2 Friday nights, so they must have upped it to 3 on Saturday.
There was some dude standing in line, and I'm like, hey, come over here, and he held one. Yeah. So. That's it. You get to know your neighbors. We do need to congratulate Coke FM and Genuine Austin Radio. Of course, they're a part with us with Horn ATX or with the Horn with Revved Up ATX. That was just a great presentation, and thank goodness they got to have both nights because both nights were really well attended. And Saturday was just, you want to talk about ass to ass in the race in the racetrack. That place was jam packed.
It was, and it's such a great setting because if you want to just sit back and sit in your lawn chair and you can go and. There's some really good views from far back there, especially with the little dancing area they had set up down there. When we were leaving, I kind of stopped and turned around and looked to make sure that everything was okay and that you could see from there, just out of curiosity, since we're in that little,
just
the
just,
VIP
just
section
to make
or
sure that nobody was falling off the stage or or over indulging or like having a heat stroke or anything. That's what you were doing, right?
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Yeah,
for sure.
mean, I wasn't trying to stare at the masses or anything.
No. Why would
I said masses, not asses, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. Stare at the masses, not just at the asses.
So the real story comes out there.
There was some eye candy. I realized that I'm old because some of the outfits were like, I'm like, what the hell are they wearing?
So, Sarah, this is a great discussion. I'm glad you brought that up. So, what in the hell? Like, you have guys wearing rompers. I mean,
what was that? Did you see the guys with the cutoff shorts and like the cutoff flannels like tied down at the bottom?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I'm hardly a GQ or a slim man by all means, but I don't think that I could. I'm going to be very honest with you. Wearing some of that stuff would kill my nuts. I could not wear that stuff.
The romper deal was crazy. I thought I'm surprised how many dudes were wearing them. Apparently, they're popular.
We were doing a Coke remote Saturday, and we were sitting there watching people come across, and of course, I was doing this with a guy that's about my age and a great young lady, Rita Blue. A little bit younger than me, but we're sitting there watching all this stuff, and it's like, what the hell is this? but it was such a vast difference because we had on Friday night when you had Clay Walker and you had Kevin Fowler and everything that you had on Friday night, you had guys and you had the Cowboys. I mean, you had people wearing jeans.
You didn't see the rompers on Friday night. You saw a bunch of rompers on Saturday.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, this is a drastic difference because like Saturday night it was like. And even the music, and this is where we won't even get to this, but I mean, some of the music, I'm like, is that country? I mean, Pat Green saved the night to me when it came to keeping Pat Green's still a bad son of a gun.
Yeah, no, he put on a good show, and I will say from listening to some of the Cole Wetzel songs, is trying to become more knowledgeable of his music. Since I don't listen to country music as much as I probably should, being that we're friends at Coke FM. But but he did not sound the radio cuts didn't sound near as rock and roll as the show did live when they were sitting there rocking. So.
It was pretty dramatic. I mean, some of the stuff. I mean, and these guys. I mean, this is where I go back to the old country. I mean, there were a lot of dropping F-bombs and all that, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I probably say that word more than I should, but I'm like, man, let's not do that on a microphone. I mean,
well, Pat Green dropped a couple.
He did, but I mean, the way he's doing it, he's like Pat effing Green, and that I totally get. And I don't know. It's I don't know. To me, it just kind of I don't know. I just don't know where things are these days.
Yeah, I guess that's the feeling with the rompers and everything else that we got to see on Saturday.
Yeah,
so.
there was definitely a whole lot of that was going on. And hey, whatever. I mean, that's just the way that things have changed. But that's a whole different discussion that we can have at another time. But it was congratulations to Coke FM. It was a really good party over there this weekend. Speaking of congratulations, there's a man with $10,000 in his pocket, the king of the hill. We're going back to the hotline, talking to Kyle Cummins. Kyle, how you doing, brother? Nope, guess he's not doing well. Let's try this. How you doing, Kyle? May have lost him for a second.
Oh, that's not good.
We'll have to go back and revisit that and get all that figured out. But, yeah, it definitely was kind of a little bit of a culture shock right there where you see all the different things, the way things have changed.
But bell bottoms,
I can't wear a romper.
You should be used to bell bottoms. I mean, bell bottoms were back in style. Apparently, that's something else that I thought was new. I thought we would see more Rocky Mountain jeans on Friday.
Friday.
I really thought we'd see more Rocky Mountain jeans there on Friday night, but I guess not, because apparently it's all now bell bottoms and stuff like that. But it was a fun time. It was a very somewhat felt like normal type of an event. Like a not the new normal, but like an old normal.
Yeah.
Going to an event, going to a real popular place. So
yeah,
that would be one of the ones that would be memorable. So hopefully we'll get ready to get with the Horn Bash here coming up next spring when it starts popping up, and good times. Hopefully everybody takes care of their COVID variant here. The Delta variant, whatever the next one will be, we'll try to get through that. But
just take care of each other.
That's right.
That's the main thing. All right, now to the hotline. The man with $10,000 sitting in his pocket, Mr. Kyle Cummins, King of the Hill. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Man, we're doing well, but not as good as you, man. How's it feel to take home that big old check? And actually, you get the big old check, but hell, you actually get the money for real too.
That's right, man. It feels pretty good. We've some of our goals to set out to do this year is win some of these bigger shows.
Yeah.
And not only did you win it, you dominated that race. You led every single lap. I mean, you put an ass whooping on a really impressive field. So, how did that make it that much more special for you? You dominated like that, or was it just a win? Is just a big win for you?
Oh yeah, these man, I haven't raced in this class up until about midway through last year, and you find out real quick that the competitiveness and the caliber of drivers that you have, there's probably, especially at a big race like that, there's probably 20 or 25 guys that you go to, and they're capable of winning the race just like you are. And man, you had a bunch of the guys from Texas and wherever else come in there, and it was a stout, tough field of cars.
Yeah. So Kyle, talk about that, because that's one of the things that we discuss so often on this program is with these factory stocks, man. It is like just blows up, and all these guys. I mean, you got modified guys that are buying these things, and I mean, what the hell is it about these cars where guys affordability is one thing, but just like anything else, you start getting guys coming in, and the gray areas pushed. What the hell is it with these cars that just attract so many badass drivers?
Yeah, man, I come from late model racing and modified driving. I've done those things for years, and a buddy of mine, we both grew up in racing, and we decided, last year, let's get back into it. Let's get a factory stock. That's the class that he enjoyed, and I was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And after a few races, I'm like, man, these dudes, you've got some drivers in here, but it's all close. I hate to say, trying to compare it to NASCAR or something, because there's no caliber of it, but when you're in there racing with guys like Dalton Faulkner and those other guys, you make one mistake in a lap and they're back up on you, or they've pulled off from you, one or the other, and it doesn't take much to really lose ground when you're with a good competitive group of drivers. And man, you talk about run side by side. We our second group of heats at Boot Hill the other night. Ryan Harris, I believe that was his name.
Yeah.
We run door to door for 6 solid laps. Tire to tire, never touched each other, and he wound up getting the best of me at the end of the heat. But it's races like that really attract people. And not only that, there's so many big races within a 3-4 hour range from where I live that you can go and run anywhere from 2,000, 1,500 to 10, 15,000 with it at least once a month.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
So,
Yeah.
So Kyle, you talk about the different cars that you race, the late models and modifieds and stuff like that. What was your first reaction when somebody told you that you were going to run asphalt pull-offs on a dirt car?
Well, I really don't know how to judge that. It doesn't seem like they go together, but with these cars, kind of the way they have them set up motor-wise and weight-wise, it feels like there's more traction there than what you would expect. You going from running on even a narrow modified tire, it's supposed to be similar to a street tire at one point. And, when you get that weight on top of them, they're not quite, and the car's decent. You're not quite slipping and sliding as much as you ought to be. We actually run a race, I don't know, a couple months back. They had a big street stock race around. We just threw some Hoosier tires on there and went and run with them, and it really wasn't just a whole bunch of difference, surprisingly.
Yeah. So what is the mindset for you? You go into this, and you talked about Faulkner and all these guys, Neil Kemp. I mean, all these guys are going to show up. How do you, how do you stay composed this whole weekend when you've got all these big hitters coming up and $10,000? That's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money for a factory stock race. How do you keep yourself in check to get through the weekend and put yourself in a position to win this damn thing?
Man, we've run against Dalton a good bit and Neil and all them, and as long as you can get through that qualifying process, to weed out some of the less skilled drivers, I should say, or less experienced.
You can say squirrel, it's okay.
Keep your nose okay. Well, if you can get through them, you can just about be confident that top 10, top 15, you can race door to door with them, and man, I sit back and I watched this race last year, or I was in this race last year. It was one of the first few races in this car, and we wound up 7th. And watching Neil win it last year and see him get so emotional, man, I fell right in his footsteps this past weekend. I grew up around these parts, and one of my things I told him after the race on the interview, I'd run that track my whole life, and that was one of the tracks around here I'd never want to race at, even though it was one of the closest. It just, I'd run a state championship race there and led every lap except the last probably 40 foot. Damn. And, and to win 3 races this year at that track, and one being a 5,000 and another one being a 10,000, it's just, I don't know if you guys know a whole lot of my story, but I'm sort of second generation. My dad, he raced late models for years. We raced all over the Dallas area, from Cowtown to down to Battlegrounds. We traveled all over the place. And, this year marks 10 years since he passed away from ALS. And we were able to do a kind of a tribute car. It's his number, his colors, and a lot of his stuff are implemented in the wrap. And, to be picking up and doing as good as we are this year, I think we've run 8 shows and won 4 of them. So all that combined, man, it made it so emotional at the end. During that practice night, they had a, I don't know what they called a lucky draw race, and I walked up to the stands with a bunch of my friends and family that had been up there watching the races. And I walked up there and I see where they're sitting, and that's right where I sat growing up.
Oh, wow.
Every weekend, that's where my family sat, and they didn't know that.
Wow.
That wasn't something that they knew, but as I went up in those stands, I sat down and watched that race, and everything just kind of got real emotional afterwards, because it was a good deal.
Yeah.
So Kyle, winning the race is one thing. We talked to Neil Kemp after he won it last year. The getting through the room of doom, the tech barn. How much was left of your car? Did they completely tear that thing apart like they did last year?
Hey, it was in boxes. That's what I was just talking about. The other classes that I've run, we may in a late model, when we run a spec type motor, we'd have to pull compression, let them check a few things on it, and body rules. That was about it.
Yeah.
Man, this class you leave there in a box, but that's how they kind of keep it fair. That's how they try to keep everybody honest. They still haven't got my tire sample. I still ain't got a check yet. So I'm waiting on tire samples to come back, but
Yeah.
that's not something I'm worried about,
Yeah.
that, but yeah, I mean, from motor to transmission, I mean, we had to put the rear end back in the car just to load it on the trailer.
Damn. Yeah, and that's
So,
and so before you came on, we were talking to a young lady out of Florida that races in the one of the Sportsman asphalt series. But that's what you have to do. I mean, because she was talking about gray area and all of that. I mean, that's really so important with these classes because it's easy for them to get out of hand. Then they die off. But, I mean, you have to do that. I mean, I know it's a pain in the ass for you guys and the crew to do that, but you have to do that to keep this thing in line.
It is. That's for sure, but I think that there's still room for improvement with it.
Mhm.
And I guess when I say improvement, like, a lot of people might not disagree with me, but, I think these things should have a header rule on them and run headers.
I agree.
Because them manifolds are not easy to fool with,
No.
and they cast and they break, and
Yep.
by the time, I mean, let's just be honest, whether you want to look at it or not, somebody's doing work on that exhaust.
Yes, sir.
But if you had a stock one, I mean, I say stock, out of the box one, that's got a part number on it that you really can't change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it bolts up easy and it sounds better. It's more appealing to the fans. I mean, it sounds a little bit more like a race car.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like I said, there's just little things like that I think would attract more people to it.
Yeah.
Even though it's as big as it is, I want to get over there towards y'all and run some more races. We just we hadn't made it out that far yet.
Yeah, for sure.
So after they put the car in the box, what's the next thing for you? I mean, do you have to skip a couple of races to get it all back together? Are you going to take it nice and slow, or what's the mindset for you and your race team?
No, I'm going to have to take a couple of weeks off. It's back in my motor builder's hands right now.
Yeah.
And I don't. We've had to do this a couple of times now, and it seems like, y'all know Faulkner over that way. I don't know him that well, but every time I see him in the tech area, he's got a program. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He pulls up there. He's got the nose coming off. He's got the tools in hand. I don't. So he's used to getting that thing back together, pretty quick to go back the next weekend where, I talked to some friends of his and some other people that help him this weekend. And, he says, they say he runs a whole bunch of shows.
Yeah.
Well, we don't, that's just, we pick and choose where we want to race and we just have fun with it, and that just, him being able to throw stuff back together versus the way we are, we put it together slow, make sure we do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure we don't have any bugs we have to work out when we hit the track next.
That's right. That's right. So, Kyle, what is it with these cars? I mean, because when I first transitioned over to dirt, I fell in love with these cars because I'm an asphalt guy, and I see these cars, and I'm like, okay, that's my street stocks right there on pavement.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it? Because I read the rules. I mean, I read the rules, and I'm like, damn, I don't quite understand how they're so damn fast. I mean, don't give away any speed secrets, but man, what is the key with these things? I mean, you got to get them working through the corners. I mean, these cars aren't designed to do the shit that we make them do. How do you manipulate this car to make it do what you guys do with them?
Man, I learned that the first part of last season when we started running this thing. Like you say, I'm coming from cars that have bars, have adjustments,
For sure.
Have ride heights you can change, and this and that and that and this, and you listen to different people, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish with certain things you're trying to do.
Exactly.
So at some point, I had to just start going off of what I feel in my seat. Whether they want to say this spring does that, this wheel spacer does that. These practice sessions, especially like Thursday over at Boot Hill, that's where I feel like we gain a lot of our speed, is being able to hit those practices. Because when we go there, we have a game plan. Okay, last time we run the car, we know this worked or this didn't work or where we could be a little bit better. So we sort of have a list of 6 or 7 things that we want to hit and come in. And, I really don't even get out of the car, and we jack it up, make the change, go right back out.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't know. I look at my car going around the track compared to some, and I don't know. I kind of have my car looks like it has a little bit different attitude than everybody else's. It's a little bit higher on the left front, and I watched some cars this weekend. Matter of fact, this is how well I know the rules in this class. I asked the tech guy this weekend. I said, well, what's the rule on the front springs? 'Cause I see some cars are like really low in the front. I thought that the rule was different than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me you could change springs, whatever. Just the rear springs have to be the same length. I'm like, I wish I'd known that last year, But it is what it is. We work with what we got, and we've made some good showings with it.
Absolutely.
So talk about the atmosphere of that race. We haven't had a chance to go to that race. We've got a chance to watch a little bit of it on Race on Texas with some highlights. But is it a big game feel to it, everybody, or is it more like a nervous atmosphere, or what's the atmosphere of that race like?
Oh, it's a big game field. You start there Thursday, the stands are pretty bare, pits are pretty full.
Yeah.
You get there Wednesday and you see the stands about half, 3/4 of the way full. But Saturday, we had an opportunity to watch all the C mains and everything else because we were in a B, and you go up to the stands, there's nowhere to sit.
Wow.
And this isn't a small stand area for a racetrack. They've got a pretty good set of stands. They've got a pretty good set of area where you can set out lawn chairs, and same thing on the pit side. And all the way around the track, people are lined up as close as they can get to the fence to watch. And you're like, this is some of these guys, what do you say, Super Bowl, World Series, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
This is some of their biggest shows that they'll go to all year. They were probably planning since last year to bring their tents and their campers and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just packed. You got out of the car. I had to, like I said, after I took that checkered flag, it was pretty emotional. I had to compose myself a little bit. And,
yeah,
Race on Texas didn't show it. TikTok's a thing or whatever. And my little girl been hitting me up about doing a dance with her. And we won over there, just a local show the weekend before, and we were on the way home. And she was riding in the back and asked me, she said, Dad, are you going to do that TikTok dance? I said, man, I really don't want to do that. I said, I tell you what, and we're on the way home, and I'm just rambling at the mouth. And she said, I told her, I said, if I win that 10 grand next weekend, I'll get on the roof of the car and do that dance with you. How's that sound? She said, deal. So when I got out of the car, that was the first thing I had to do. I had to keep that promise to that little girl, and that's something I feel like she'll remember for the rest of her life.
Oh man, we'll have to get our hands on that, get that posted on the Facebook page.
Yeah, there's some TikTok videos floating out. I think a couple of them's about to go viral. I don't know. They're just racking up views left and right.
That's awesome.
One guy tags me in a post that it's got Ricky Bobby's voice over in me in the interview, and I don't even know how they do that, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, a man out of Louisiana. There you go, right there.
Yeah.
So,
and that's another thing too. I don't know that anybody. I don't know if anybody's won that race out of Louisiana.
I don't think. I don't think they have. I don't think they have.
So.
No.
I think I'm one of the first guys to keep it in Louisiana.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into that, but I can't think of anybody offhand that's from here.
Yeah, no, I think you are the first. I think you are the first. So talk about that, Kyle. I mean, for so many people, we talk to so many people on this program, and just we've been, both Bobby and I have been in this for so damn long. You've talked about your dad. You're mentioning your daughter right there. I mean, this is our sport. I mean, it's all about family. It's all about spending family time together. We're raised on this. I don't give a damn if you're a fan or a pit crew member, whatever it is. This is really what this sport is, and I think that a lot of common people just don't understand how homegrown this sport is.
That's very true. I can go back to here roughly 10 years ago when I was running late models, and I was running late models weekly and traveling the country, and my family didn't really get the opportunity to go with me every weekend. And really and honestly, they kind of got burnt out on it because we were traveling long distances every weekend. And, since we put this deal together, it's really been awesome to have the support of family and friends because, they haven't, my wife, my son, I don't know that any of us missed a race. And probably since we started with this factory stock, maybe one, I'm not sure, but
wow,
that's where it really picks up and makes a difference. It's just the whole atmosphere. I think, it's so surreal. I think the other night at the races was probably the most people I've ever had at a race with me. We had a parking spot next to us that nobody parked in. Well, it was full of lawn chairs that were here to watch me. and
Love it.
There's one picture of me on the front straightaway with so many people lined up in front of the car, and that was about half of them. My mom was there. She doesn't get to come a lot, but she was able to be there, and we got a great crew. I joke about it, but we've got about 5 or 6 kids that go with it, and I call them the six pack. I got one of them named Breezy. I mean, that's just the way that it is, and they love it.
Yeah.
It's just been a great year so far this year, and I hope we can continue to build on it. More and more big races coming up.
That's exciting.
I'm just curious what you can do to top it. I mean, it sounds like you won a couple of big races so far. Is that the goal, to just sweep all the big ones?
Yeah, last year, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but last year they had their 15,000 win down at Chatham, which is about an hour and a half southeast from us, and we led 56 laps of that thing, and it was a 75 lap race.
Oh,
I didn't know if I was ever going to live that one down.
Oh man.
But that one's coming up next month, and we've got a crate car too that we hadn't run much, and they've actually, that same track's actually got a 50,000 win coming up next month.
Damn.
Ooh.
So we'll just see how those things go. I think Boot Hill's got another 10,000 in a crate, and Architect Speedway's got I think they still got a few, maybe I think it's called the Cajun Classic, something like that we'll try to hit. That's a track that doesn't run, in my opinion, enough.
Yeah.
It's such a great racing facility.
Yeah.
But too, like, I'm not downplaying Boot Hill at all. The people that are running that show now, man, we run through everything. They did an awesome job.
Mm-hmm. So what's your perfect track, Kyle? I mean, we talk to guys. I mean, there's guys that like the big old heavy tacky. I mean, the dry slick. I mean, what works best for you? Which one you get out there and you see this track and it's like, all right, we're kicking ass tonight. When you see that track, it's like, all right, we're gonna win tonight. What's your favorite style of this stuff?
And I would never pick Boot Hill, but I mean, right now that seems to be the way it's going. But I've always loved racing over there at Texas Motor Speedway. We've always run good there in the other classes, and that Architects, like I said, it's one of the raciest facilities, or has been in the past. And we used to run a bunch in Mississippi at Greenville Speedway over there. We won the Gumbo Nationals over there one year, and it's just I don't know. I like that black mud sometimes. We run down the battlegrounds a few times, and that gumbo dirt's just, it's a lot of fun, and it gets slick when it's slick. And so I really don't know which track I would pick out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kyle, you talked
the
about
only one I guess I couldn't get a handle on was Batesville. We run up at Batesville a lot, and that's just that's a different animal in its own.
So when you talk about running late models, did you run that old super late model series, those SUPR late models, or which late models did you end up running?
I did. I run the Super Series. I think in about 2009 or 2010, I was the Rookie of the Year. And in '98, my dad actually won the points championship for Super.
Mm-hmm.
And back then they were having 30 or 40 cars every event.
Wow.
It was packed.
Yeah.
Well, I guess one of the last, the last late model race that I won was at Devil's Bowl. And I guess that was in 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to put great shows on. The supercars used to put great shows on at TMS. I remember one time we were up there. It was cold as hell for a race in January, and the modifieds and stuff were doing all right. Then all of a sudden, here comes the super late models, and they start running 4 and 5 wide at TMS, and that's when the grandstands woke up and said, "Oh, holy shit, here we go."
Yeah, that sounds maybe like the time that one of the last times that I run there. We qualified in the back. I think Billy Moyer, and I don't know if Billy wound up winning or Jack Sullivan. I can't remember exactly who won it, but I believe we started like 16th, and we took off. Everybody went to the bottom, and I drove from like 16th to 4th in 2 laps. Just staying up top, and then everybody else got wide. So I was good. I had my line, and I made my passes, but, that's just one of those places. Back years ago, they had that they started they had a few races when NASCAR was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I believe my dad, he won one of those shows when the NASCAR was there, and then I think a couple of years after that, the way I understand it, the NASCAR got mad because their haulers were getting too dirty, and they stopped having the dirt track races at the same time as the NASCAR race because of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. That makes sense, though. That would make sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
got to ask you before we cut you loose, Kyle. So how cool is it? I mean, you win the king of you are the king of the hill, and you're gonna get the $10,000 eventually, but how much you gonna have to spend to put that damn thing back together?
I don't think it's going to be that much.
Okay,
our
good.
motor guys, he takes care of us. You win a race in his car, he's going to pretty much put it back together for you for nothing.
Nice.
I mean, he don't. That's where we're lucky around here with some of these engine builders, stuff like that. You put their name on the car and you advertise for them and stay legal. They'll take care of you when you have to reassemble.
Man, that's
because we're
awesome.
not having to rebuild nothing. We're just having to reassemble, clean, and go back at it. The transmission, we'll send it back to the transmission guy, let him look over it, and the rest of it will be up to us. I got a few dents in the bumper I got to beat out from lap traffic, but that's about it.
It's all good, man. It is all good, dude.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. I'm so happy for you. What a great story, man. Let's do this again, man. Would love to talk to you. Hell, go win another one, and shit, we'll talk about how you're going to spend that money.
Hell yeah, I'm ready, man. I appreciate y'all.
Absolutely, dude. Congratulations. You are the king of the hill, my friend. Keep doing it, man. Keep doing it. And I love the story, just about everything, and how special the weekend was. Not just the win, but just everything altogether.
10-4, yeah. Y'all just shoot me away, and I'll send you some of them TikTok videos that's going around, and y'all can share them however you want to.
Dude,
yeah.
I will take those.
Yeah.
We'll post them on our page. Absolutely, we will do that, and we'll make it go viral.
That's right. I hear you. Thank y'all.
All right, man. Take care.
Y'all be good.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Here he is, Kyle Cummins. Man, what a night! I mean, these
two really good interviews tonight.
Man, these are great. I mean, $10,000, and I mean, I love these factory stocks. We got to get over there to watch that race. I think that would be a really fun weekend to watch.
While we enjoyed the coverage that Race on Texas did, our friends over at Race on Texas, nothing beats being there live.
Oh yeah.
That's that's a big show. We got to make lots of plans to go to that. So
yeah, and I mean, don't forget, everybody got the Red River Tour that's coming up also. I mean, that'll fire off at South Texas. Hopefully, what's the weather look like? Is there anything brewing out there in the Gulf? My God, man, that place is snake bitten, dude. That is horrible.
Man, it's rough. That whole season's been rough for Corpus.
Yeah, that has been really, really bad. So hopefully they can get that in. And that's a great card. I like what they're doing there. I mean, no offense to any of the other classes, but when you put something together with that kind of money, but you've got the mods, the limited modifieds, and the factory stocks, that's a good bill of racing right there.
Yeah, no, I mean it's going to be a quick, efficient show with a lot of quality cars. Is from what we've seen with the people that are trying to race in it, that we've seen on social media, trying to get different parts and pieces for it. So it's going to be quite a few heavy hitters in there. So it'll be fun to see how they how many cars they get and how well the show and the series end up running.
You ever get confused like me? It's like, okay, I'm talking about this track, it's a sport mod. I'm talking about this track, it's a limited modified.
Mm-hmm. It happens.
Yeah. I've been at the limited modified track, and I'm like, here come the sport mods. And I'm like, oops, limited modified.
I think it's because it's a name, not a name recognition thing. It's a rules thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because
that's what it is.
IMCA, you got to say sport mod or Southern sport mod or whatever the case may be. The cars that are running the IMCA rules but without the IMCA sanction, those are limited modifieds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
But it's easy to mess them up. It's
yeah.
totally easy to mess it up.
Yeah.
We both have made the mistake a lot of times. So
yeah. Before we cut out, let's take another listen, just one more time, and I'm just randomly pulling stuff here. One more listen to the great Bob Jenkins that we lost today.
A lot more exciting than they are now. I first heard that they were going to change the track, and I thought, oh dear, don't do that, because people go to Bristol to see one groove racing, and when somebody would venture out of that one groove, it would always mean some kind of a spin or an accident, and I think that's what people wanted at Bristol. And unfortunately, we don't see much of that anymore with 2 and 3 grooves. So I remember really the good days, I think, at Bristol, and wish it were back that way now.
I think he shares just in that little piece right there, and we'll repost that full interview as we lost the great Bob Jenkins. And like we talked about, I mean, we need to embrace these legends that continue to do. I don't care what form or facet that they're in. I mean, whether it's a great broadcaster like that and all the legendary racers. Like, we talked. I got to tell you, I ran into Mark Kordymski last weekend at Coke Fest, and we had a really nice discussion there with talking about Don. I mean, all the things that Don did, and the services coming up on Saturday. I saw at Cook Walden here in Austin, so that information is up on Facebook as well. But it's embrace that and enjoy those memories. I mean, because that's stuff that you'll never get back, and you have to appreciate those moments.
Yeah, you just can't let any moment pass you by because you just never know. It could be as simple as a coyote running across the streets. You never know. You never know what's going to happen, and got to keep yourself on your toes and let the people know you love them, because a lot of times when you really think about it, it's a little too late to remind them how much you love them because they're gone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Great program tonight. Thank you all for checking in. Thanks to Brooks Store. Just a fantastic conversation with that young lady right there. And that's where you see young drivers that get this live or get it on your Reboot or RevvedUpSportsShow.com, RevvedUpSportsShow.tv. You learn how to speak, and that young lady is the best example. I mean, there have been great examples, but I can honestly tell you that training that she did,
it worked.
My goodness, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it totally worked.
And work on your car, because she does that too. That was really good. And, man, King of the Hill. I love the story. I didn't know all of that about Kyle Cummins, and I'm glad he won. He won.
Glad he won with all that stuff with his dad and everything else. But see, that's why people tune into us, because we try to get the big winners of the big races and get to tell the other. What is it? Was it Walter Cronkite said? Now you know the rest of this. Paul Harvey said, "Now you know the rest of the story." The rest of the story, you get it right here on hashtag Real Race Talk. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, that's our show. I mean, it's what it's always been, and we love talking to just great folks like that. And like we said, we've got really good stuff coming up here in the next few weeks. I mean, legends, promoters, everything. The state of racing as we count you down, as we get ready to crown champions. It's going to get better, like we talked about. It's going to get really, really good. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to get hot, but it's going to be fun, just like this race weekend coming up. Either just go out and support your local racetrack. That's all there is to it. Whether you're supported in Corpus, South Texas Speedway, I-37, Texana, wherever, Cotton Bowl when they race again, just go out and support your local racetrack. Yep. Louisiana, Alabama, Florida. We got a lot of folks that are checking in and liking us from out that way, and that is very much appreciated. Just get on out. Keep this thing rolling. We love it, and we know you love it too, so good stuff. All right, y'all. Check in all the archives at RevvedUpSportsShow.com, RevvedUpSportsShow.tv, Saturday shows at HornFM.com. Bobby and Rodney, we're going to sign off and be done for the night. Y'all have a great week. Stay cool. Hydrate. Hydrate. The good way, with the water, not with the adult beverages. Well, you can do that too, but be smart about that. We're out of here. It's Revved Up Sports Show, live from Texas.